That's the name on the street for the Oswald Maximum Security Penitentiary.
Oz is an intense, groundbreaking drama that chronicles the lives of prisoners in the Oswald Maximum Security Prison, known as Oz. It focuses on the brutal conditions and complex power struggles within the prison system, following a diverse ensemble cast of inmates as they struggle to survive both inside and outside of the prison walls. The show pulls no punches in depicting violence, corruption, and despair that characterizes life in Oz. Behind cold steel bars, humanity festers in cages unfit for man or beast. The condemned await execution, perhaps innocent, never to breathe free air again. The impoverished and addicted wither away, condemned by a cruel justice system that favors the wealthy. Any illusion of morality is stripped away in this hellish underworld, leaving broken souls and withered dreams in its wake. The paradox of prison is clear. It does not rehabilitate, but dehumanizes. Within these walls, the best and worst of man is witnessed, where redemption remains elusive and suffering is guaranteed. This is a cold, brutal reality of life that Oz expresses. M City, otherwise known as Emerald City, a perverse social experiment developed by McManus, where prisoners are lab rats conditioned to conform. Locked in fishbowl pods, every private moment is surveilled, humanity reduced to numbered uniforms. The precious illusion of rehabilitation continues and crumbles into this prison where different cultures clash and power corrupts absolutely. M City reflects the deepest flaws of human nature. When locked together, man becomes a beast who exploit weakness and impunity. There is no true rehabilitation here, only various shades of punishment. Augustus Hill is one of the prisoners of Oz. He narrates this show and gives insight to what a prisoner's life is inside of M City, or Oz. Warden Leo Glynn is in charge of Oz, with his associate Tim McManus, who is in charge of the whole M City experiment. Now, McManus has some sort of god complex. He makes the decision for every prisoner in his facility to make them recover and become societally acceptable. That isn't how prison works. That isn't how people works, because these prisoners themselves might not want that. Because of this, he deals with many conflicts with different prisoners and keeps on trying to play God by making key decisions in their lives. There are a couple gangs that have developed in M City. One of the leaders is Jefferson Keane of mostly an African American group. Then there's Tony Musante. He's in charge of an Italian mafia entangled group. Then there's Vern Schillinger, who's basically in charge of a white group who preserves Aryan descent. Then there's Kareem Saeed, who was introduced later in the episode as a Muslim African American who develops his own sort of gang of non-violence and peace upon African Americans. Episode 1 of Oz, The Routine, starts out with some new inmates, one of which is named Tobias. Tobias has a buddy named Ortolani. See, Ortolani is the character I've decided to focus on because he had a life sentence, and there's a lot that goes on inside someone's head if they have such a sentence. So, Tobias Beecher and a cannibalistic dude who ate his mother are introduced to their buddies that aim to teach them about prison at M City. Ortolani is a specific buddy whose character I focused on. Ortolani is part of an Italian group and he has a short temper. When he has to help Tobias, he rejects him and imparts him with some advice. Tobias continues to try to be friends with Dino, but nothing really works out. Then Dino's character is not really focused on until later in the episode. Tobias' story is then introduced. He gets paired to an intimidating African American man, and he's constantly teased by him. Vern Schillinger tries to empathize with Tobias and gains Tobias' trust. After this, he convinces Tobias to room with him and then makes Tobias his prag, which is some sort of pet. or as they said it in the episode, livestock. Basically, Tobias is now owned by Vern. He ends up being abused and manipulated, and Vern reveals his anti-Semitism and forces it onto Tobias. Then Dino has a couple beats between Vern about Dino telling his group that him and Vern should stay together against Saeed and their group. Then Dino has a conversation with his group about the guy who Dino killed being convicted and sent to M City. So it turns out he didn't die, and Dino wants to lash out on this guy, and he's told not to and obeys his leader. When Dino Ortolani meets with his group, he sees two different guys. One guy, he's trying to eye him or maybe appease him in a sexual way. And another guy is the guy that he tried to kill. Now, he insults the first man for his sexuality, and he must resist a fight O'Reilly, who is the guy that he tried to kill. Now, after, Dino meets the guy who tried to eye him in the shower, and he acts out. He extremely injures the guy. And this guy, he is part of the African American group, and Jefferson Keane, he isn't happy about this. And O'Reilly, behind Ortolani's back, is trying to get him dead. So now that there's a tension against Ortolani, O'Reilly wants to take this chance to kill him once and for all. Ortolani then has a conversation with McManus about an appointment to discuss his punishment for severely injuring this man. McManus catches a cockroach and trusts Ortolani without cuffs at the beginning of the scene. He tries to guilt Ortolani. Ortolani is unbothered and is waiting to get his punishment for going to the hole. The hole is this place where he is basically in solitary confinement. McManus tries to tell Ortolani that he can still have a purpose, but Ortolani laughs and talks to the cockroach. He then is punished by going to the AIDS ward, which he extremely dislikes. It points out to what Ortolani must do because of his actions, and how prison acts towards people with no goal of improvement. After Ortolani goes back to M City, Vern praises him. Ortolani doesn't accept anything and rejects Vern and insults him. Then, when working in the AIDS department, Sanchez wants to see his daughter and ends up having a smoke with Ortolani. Sanchez is this AIDS patient that Ortolani talks to very often. They talk about how Sanchez got AIDS and how Ortolani might have sold the drug that gave Sanchez AIDS. Now, Ortolani gets upset, angry, like always, and denies that it's his fault that Sanchez got AIDS. Ginny, Ortolani's wife, and his kids come to meet him. Ortolani says that she should move on, and Ortolani doesn't want to take in the pain of the situation, but he wants it to happen. He struggles to even make eye contact and basically says goodbye. When Ortolani goes to see Sanchez again, Sanchez wishes to die. Ortolani thinks it's funny, ironic, but then he sees the lifelessness and feels the death that already lingers in Sanchez's life. Then he meets with O'Reilly and talks about moving to M City. Ortolani lashes out. He always acts this way, and he regrets this and can't comprehend his feelings. Then Saeed talks to Ortolani. Ortolani once again rejects him, even though he visibly needs help. Ortolani then kills Sanchez. Ortolani does it because he knows Sanchez wants to die, and maybe he wants to do that to himself too. Ortolani gets sent to the hole. Ortolani then gets assassinated after being lit on fire in the hole. There is no doubt Oz is going to explore some very dark, chilling territory, judging by the first episode. The tension created by the dangerous characters inside Oz crackles from the screen. While difficult to watch at times, the show's gritty realism pulls the viewer in. I like this episode. It maintained themes of nihilism because of inmates with life sentences and introduced as ethical dilemmas on how M City operates. Overall, 5 stars.